Today is December 1st, and it is the first day of our Rohatsu Sesshin. Sesshin is the Japanese word for silent retreat. So for the next week, starting tonight, we're going to be in silence, and we have a full day schedule from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., basically of sitting. Lots and lots and lots of sitting all week long. And what's special about Rohatsu Sesshin, Rohatsu refers to the period of time around Bodhi Day. And Bodhi Day is December 8th, which I guess historically is the day that the Buddha had his major enlightenment, which started this whole thing of Buddhism, uh, and the reason that we're here today. So it's kind of traditional the week of Rohatsu, the week around Bodhi Day, to have one of these sessions or silent meditation retreats. So those of us who are participating are facing a grueling week. Um, I was just having a conversation with someone, and they were talking about how stressed they were. And it just made me think of, because there's something in me that wants to be like, oh, you're stressed, you should meditate, right? We all think that meditation's gonna help me feel less stressed. And I think I don't really believe that right now. I think participate in Rohatsu Sesshin and see how not stressful it is. I think that makes sense. Sitting down and spending ample amounts of time in silence, looking at how our minds and our hearts work, um, is not necessarily calming. It's not necessarily blissful and easy. I don't think it's stressful, but it does make us look at our stress, look at ourselves. Um, and there might be other methods of meditation that are about, particularly trying to calm oneself down. I don't really know what those are, and I'm sure they're out there. But for those of you that came to learn more about Zen Buddhism and what we do here, um, if you're looking for stress mitigation, I would just simply not recommend coming to a Zen center um, to sit, because we're here to work. We're here to awaken. We're here to, I mean, if you look at the Buddha's path, he was starving himself, and he was, just in agony trying to figure out, what is this life? What is myself? Sitting day in, day out in the elements, birds and insects making nests in his hair, and um, dealing with delusion and temptation, and looking at all of the things that obstruct us from enlightenment. So, um, what we do here is some pretty powerful stuff. Um, so I thought it would only be appropriate to kick off this week of sesshin by talking about the Buddha's enlightenment itself. Um, so the Buddha was, the historical Buddha was known as Siddhartha Gautama, as a lot of us know. He was like a prince or a lord or a noble in India in about 500 BC. And he had this very strong spiritual inquiry. He left his life of royalty and luxury to pursue the spiritual path. And long story short, he made it to just sitting in meditation under the Bodhi tree. And it was after that intense meditation period where he experienced his enlightenment. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit more. So I'll read from this. You probably can't see that, it's so dark. But this is what's known as the Denko Roku, or the Transmitting of the Light, the record of transmitting the light. And this is a collection of stories, or we use them as koans, which are kind of like practice points. And these stories chronicle the enlightenment stories of all the masters from Buddha to Dogen. Okay, so the Buddha was in India, he had his enlightenment, he started teaching, and then he started passing on his enlightenment to his students. And then those students passed on the enlightened mind, or whatever you want to call it, to their students, and their students to their students. And then Bodhidharma, eventually, hundreds and hundreds of years later, traveled from India to China. And so he brought the Buddha way to China. And he got students and successors and passed on the Buddha mind to them and to their students and to their students until Dogen, who traveled from China to Japan and brought the Buddha way to Japan. And then Dogen's Dharma grandson, right? So Dogen passed it on to his student Koun-Ejo, and then Koun-Ejo had Kazon, and Kazon put together this collection of stories. I know that's a lot of mumbo jumbo history, but it's a really beautiful book, and you really get to see how unique and how beautiful everyone's enlightenment story is. And of course, that enlightened mind continues to be passed down all the way to our founder and teacher, Seisen, and then down to me, or Echo, or Kokyo, all of Seisen's students. So it's kind of like a family tree in a way. And so the very first chapter is obviously about Shakyamuni Buddha, who we know as the historical Buddha. So he has a very short story, which says, Shakyamuni Buddha saw the morning star and was enlightened. And he said, I and the great earth and beings simultaneously achieve the way. Achieving the way. So, Shakyamuni Buddha. This Shakyamuni Buddha is Siddhartha Gautama, right? So Siddhartha was the guy who was born to the king. Shakyamuni is the name that's been given to him, I think posthumously. I don't know. Does anyone know the history of that?
Refers to the tribe his people were the Shakya.
Right, the Shakya were the people. I just didn't know if they called him that while he was alive. But yeah, Shakya was the clan of people he was from, and Muni means sage or wise one. So that's the historical Buddha. He sees the morning star and was enlightened. So he's sitting under the Bodhi tree in meditation for days or weeks, I can't remember. And then one morning, he just simply looks up at the sky and he was enlightened. And even there is like a wealth of Dharma talks to talk about. First thing to notice is notice he wasn't in meditation, right? He wasn't sitting there and then all of a sudden meditation gave him this huge portal to some amazing thing. Similarly, it doesn't say he saw the morning star and bright golden light exuded from all the trees and swirling spirals of golden magical dust came to him. No, it just simply says he saw the star and was enlightened. And I think this is so important because we all want enlightenment. We all want realization, achieving the way. We want to believe that it's some magical thing, that some kind of blissful, extraordinary, magical thing is going to happen to us and everything's going to change. But what is enlightenment? Seeing a star. Right? Like when we work with these as koans, we see how they are alive in our own life. So when it says he saw the morning star and was enlightened, what I see, what I hear is I hear a truck turn on in the neighbor's yard and am enlightened. I hear the birds in the trees and am enlightened. I meet someone named Cat and am enlightened. Just this very life as it is your enlightenment experience. And we meditate for hours and hours and weeks and years and lifetimes, not to have some special experience, but simply to invite. I thought of that. Meditation is simply an invitation. You're inviting your life as it is. Sunny day, cloudy day, getting a job, getting fired, whatever it is, meditation allows us to see everything as our awakening experience. Constantly. Nothing special, just our life as it is. And that's so hard to see, especially when we live in a world of impermanence and injustice, oppression, inequality, inequity. It's so hard to see that. Not to mention our own greed, anger, and ignorance. All of those things are working to dissuade us from seeing that just this is enlightenment. But that intensive meditation practice really invites that. So after his enlightenment, he says, I and the great earth and beings simultaneously achieve the way. There's so much there, right? So in one sense, he's separating those things. I, the great earth, and I assume that for him, maybe in those times, the great earth includes the stars and the moon and the sky, because I don't think he's excluding those by any means. So me, the earth, the heavens, all beings, everything, absolutely everything, simultaneously awaken, achieve the way, are perfect, um, free. We're free. We simultaneously become free. And this is not logical. Our logical mind, our discursive mind sees separate beings, sees a tree is separate from me, the star is billions and billions of miles away, or whatever it is. So what does that mean? Simultaneously, all of us are giving a Dharma talk. All of us are hungry. All of us awaken together. That oneness, that complete interconnectedness is what he woke up to, right? This is his first expression of what enlightenment is. All of us are one thing, or no thing, you could say. Every single last thing is just the morning star, just the leaf blower next door. And that's so hard to see because constantly, just in order to survive, just to wake up in the morning and go to work, we have to start separating things. There's no way around it. I see a star. Just in that sentence, we've already separated things. We've created this whole dualistic universe of me and that, and good and bad, and awake and not awake, and suffering and peace. It's all dualistic, all delusive thinking. But through this intensive meditation, we can have this experience. That's the main point. This is not a philosophy talking about non-dualism, talking about we're all one, talking about my awakening is your awakening, my suffering is your suffering. It doesn't work as a philosophy or a thing to remember. It's an experience that all of us have. I would bet money that all of us have had that experience, whether we recognize it or not, because it's just the truth. It's the experience of coming face to face with that true self, of complete oneness. So Kazan, the Japanese guy who put this together, part of this collection is his commentary on these cases. And if I can break your brain a little bit, he says, if you want an intimate understanding of enlightenment, you should get rid of you and Buddha at once and quickly understand this matter of I. I is the great earth and all beings. And is not I, as the old fellow Gautama. Examine carefully, deliberate carefully, and clarify this I and this and, right? Because as soon as you say and, you've separated things. So even by him saying I and the earth and beings is already wrong. As soon as he says I, it's wrong. But what is this bigger I? What is this I that includes absolutely everything? Can you imagine? Can you imagine living your life interacting with everything and everyone as if it were yourself? Not as a mantra, not as an affirmation, as an experiential truth. Even if you clarify the meaning of I, but you fail to clarify and, you lose the discerning I. This being so, I and are neither identical nor different. Truthfully, your skin, your flesh, bones, and marrow are totally and. And the Lord of the house is I. Don't think about that. Just let it seep into your bones. And I mean that. I really mean that. Let it seep into your bones. And do zazen. Do sesshin. Not a lot of us do here, but I'm telling you, if you experience sesshin, if you really dive into this practice of just breathing, letting go of that thinking mind, letting go of that logical mind that wants to separate and understand things, then this all will make perfect sense. What Kazan is saying here will be your understanding. And that's, I mean, it's just evidential. For thousands of years, this understanding, this practice has been passed down. And just coming to Dharma talks and hearing me say, and is and I is and the and is an and that, it's not, it's, it's just, I hope it does something for you, but I don't know that it's going to make any sense. The core of what the Buddha awoke to is sitting. Lots and lots of sitting with people, sharing that sitting, talking about that sitting, working with a teacher in that sitting practice. So essential. And then you too can have this reality of non-dualism. I say have, which is ridiculous. But you can come face to face with this reality of the non-dual, of the no self, of the no I, no great earth, and no beings. It's just what you are. So in addition to, or rather for every enlightenment story, Kazan also offers a poem. And a lot of them are really nice. They're short. So his poem for this one says, "A splendid branch issues from the old plum tree. At the same time, obstructing thorns flourish everywhere. A splendid branch issues from the old plum tree." So this plum tree metaphor is, it's used, I guess, a lot in Chinese stuff, maybe. But the plum tree is kind of a symbol for enlightenment, true self, this thing that we awaken to. So when they say old plum tree, we're talking so old that it goes before time. Even before our concept of time, this old plum tree was here. And so this splendid branch issuing from the old, ancient, timeless plum tree, I guess you could see it in a couple ways. In one way, that was the Buddha, right? One more Buddha, one more person who has really awakened to his true nature of oneness. And in fact, our lineage here in America is called the White Plum. It's like a community of teachers in our lineage. We call it the White Plum group or the White Plum Asanga. I don't know what the white plum is. It's kind of unfortunate given that the whole damn thing is made of white people pretty much, which is really problematic. But I assume the white plum is some kind of species of plum. Um, so yeah, this plum tree and a new branch with every person that sits and experiences this total dropping off of self, a new branch from the plum tree emerges. But then another really important way to see this is that every moment of your life is a splendid branch issuing from the plum tree. That is your life. It's the morning star. It's the wind rustling through the trees. It's your embarrassment. It's your greed. It's your boredom. It's your loneliness. That is the old plum tree. And every moment of your life is the issuing of a new branch of enlightenment. And we sit zazen to really see that for ourselves. The next line says, "At the same time," not afterwards, not because I didn't sit enough today, not because I'm in a bad mood, but literally as the splendid branch of your life as enlightenment is happening, at the same time, obstructing thorns flourish everywhere. So again, even this notion of enlightened and deluded is itself deluded. To make some kind of distinction between an enlightened person and a non-enlightened person, Shakyamuni rolls over in his grave hearing that. So to see our obstructions, our dualistic relative reality, and the enlightened plum branch of our beautiful enlightened life as the same thing at the same time, both completely present. That's our practice. And that's why we keep practicing, right? This Buddhism isn't about meditating or coming to the Zen center enough so that you get a thing, so that you're, I think I've got it. I think I've done enough. I think I see the plum branch of my life and I'm good now. No, that's already forgetting the and, as Kazan said. You lose your discerning eye. So the minute you even say plum or enlightened or Buddha or branch, it's already an obstructing thorn. And so we sit as an invitation, inviting the enlightenment branch, inviting the thorns, and inviting each other to go deeper into both.